We need it. Oxygen. It's why we breathe.
Don't forget to follow Grit Daily News as well as me, your host, Loralyn Mears, everywhere on social media. And how about throwing 4 or 5 stars our way if you're listening to Apple or Spotify? Subscribe to our show. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Grit Daily Like a Boss podcast, or I should say, formerly known as Like a Boss. Now we are the Grit Files, startup stories. And with us today, we've got an Army veteran in the house. He's been deployed to Afghanistan. So first, we want to thank him for his service. The second thing is that he's just published his first book, The Last Marauder. So we want to congratulate him as a new author and welcome into that fold. Plus, he does social media for one of the biggest, freaking fastest growing coffee companies on the planet. So he's got all kinds of goodies to talk to us about. Please welcome Luke Ryan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Well, it's kind of fun. You've got such an interesting background. You've done all of these great kinds of things. And author, you're a veteran, you're a social media marketing expert, and you're growing your team rapidly. So we got tons to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots to dig into in any of those topics, really. It's kind of a whole world to nerd out on each one of them.
Well, why don't we get started then? And how do you want to show up to our audience here? Why don't you put it in your words? I used mine, but you're an author, you write. And in fact, for the audience, Luke has multiple bulletin boards behind him with the most meticulously laid out, straight lined, perfectly spaced Post-it notes mapping out his stories. So this is an organized guy.
There's a crooked one in there. I mean, I think a lot of what I do boils down to storytelling in some way or another. And that's a huge connection that businesses, fiction writers, nonfiction writers, all these other people, they kind of miss this, whatever it is that you're communicating and connecting, how you're connecting to other people, it needs some heart to it, whether it's inspiring or just a laugh or a really complex comedic type thing or a really emotionally intense, piece of drama, whatever it is, even marketing pieces, it has to have some heart to it. And that's what I really enjoy doing, whether it's writing in my fiction, trying to use, social media to tell stories that wind up, pushing this marketing machine forward. Any of those, all of that kind of boils down to storytelling, tapping into the human experience, and making whatever you're representing, whether it's yourself or a company or whatever, into this like relatable, very human type thing.
Now, in your new fictional release, does it play on different character strengths and people that you know? I mean, what do you want to share about the book?
Yeah. So it's a trilogy. And this one is very much, it's a post-apocalyptic book set. It follows a 15-year-old kid in a post-apocalyptic Tampa, Florida. And he is bent on revenge after the death of his brother over a skirmish over resources. It's a very small scale conflict. And it's based off of my own experiences, which, I have from the military, as a 21-year-old guy, like pretty young, learning, about war for the first time on a large conflict scale. I was also in a school shooting when I was in 8th grade. So that, like that exposure to violence as a child is a lot different than as an adult. And I have a rare kind of personal look at both sides of that. So the book really is about the discovery of war and human conflict and violence from the eyes of someone whose age is kind of smack dab in the middle of those two major events in my life. So that's kind of what it represents. And a lot of the people that are in the book, they represent, or not represent, but, they're kind of based on people I know who fit into certain, like this person was a big mentor in my life, but maybe he wasn't your classic mentor type personality. He's not this Merlin, Obi-Wan Kenobi type character. He's kind of a run and gun kind of cowboy kind of guy. But one thing that he really did was really cared about the people that he was in charge of. So, that these sort of personality traits that are interesting and a bit more human than the tropes that you see over and over again.
And you mentioned Obi-Wan Kenobi. So as a Star Wars fan myself, I'm
Yeah.
hearing cool nerd thing happening here. Is this, are we dialed into that?
Well, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I haven't watched a couple of the most recent shows on Disney Plus, but I definitely will. I
thought they were sad. I wanted, for anybody else, this is a spoiler, I wanted Anna Driver as Kylo Ren to take over and really go to the dark side and rip what's her name out of there. I was so over it. Yeah.
Yeah. I still go back and
Daisy Ray
all the time, though. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of cool. So now with your book and the path that you're on, I'm gonna ask a question. What's really thrown you for a loop? What gave you cause for pause and you went, whoa, I really need to do something here and think about this differently?
When I was like writing this book, and, I have other books that are finished that I'm currently in like the, seeking publishers phase for, there's so much you get like laser focused on the work that, you have to do, right? The writing of the book, right? I got to write the book. I got to finish it, and that's a whole task in and of itself for sure. Like it's a big project, takes months at least to finish, if not much longer. And when you're done, you realize like, man, I'm about maybe halfway there. There's so much stuff from on the back end of that you have to do, from, seeking out, agent publishers, depending on what relationships you have and how you can maneuver that whole world. All the way to once it's done, like, being a part of the marketing piece, being a pivotal part of your own book's success. It's not just like you have a book, you throw it somewhere and you make a bunch of money. I mean, there's especially, I've self-published 2 books of war poetry as well. And, that the marketing is all on you, and that's fine. But it's a lot of work. And, this sort of understanding that there is so much more than just writing the book, which is already a task enough on its own. That definitely has thrown me for a loop. And, when you're trying to time manage your life around writing, and you want to write, like I'm big on writing every day, whatever it is that you want to get good at, do it every day. And even if it's just 5 minutes a day, that can be a lot of work. And that has sort of thrown me for a loop, and having to kind of reinvent another workflow for that piece to it too, that'll work. That's not a simple everyday discipline type thing.
I'm going to ask 2 questions out of that. First, did you take a moment to celebrate when you finished your book?
This one, sort of. This one I did, but I like kind of had it done. I self-published it for like really fast, and I took it down and rewrote the whole thing because there's a bunch of things I wanted to change. And then, so it was kind of a weird process, but the sequel, actually, I finished, and I had more of a celebration when I was done, because I was like, you know what? I want to keep doing this. I want to keep writing books. I want to keep going. So I think I learned that was valuable more the second time around than the first time.
Gotcha. Well, you got to celebrate these accomplishments, right? However small, however big along the way, so that you just get that chance to fuel you for the next thing. And my second question relates to, how have you changed throughout this whole thing, where you come back from Afghanistan, you decided you really want to write, you enjoy that. You've brought, even like you said, in poetry, as well as these other books, a whole trilogy. I mean, why write one book, right? When you can write 3. And of course, all the social media efforts that you do. How have you changed through all of this?
I think that I've always had a really deep desire to be good at storytelling, and good at sort of, like tapping into the human experience in ways, and illuminating different parts of the, human story that we're all a part of. But one thing that I've really changed is a respect and understanding of learning the craft of it. Like I got to be like, you can want to be good and understand the heart of something really well, but if you don't understand like every single step of the way to actually get there, then it's not going to work. I mean, you have to understand how to write, in a way that resonates with people. It might not be what's popular. It might be what's popular, whatever it is. I mean, as long as it resonates with people, trying to perfect that is like the work. It's the work part, really, and that's what's changed with me, as I've got a work ethic from the military and from my upbringing. I think that's been really helpful, but I've had to put in the work myself in adapting that into learning the craft of these things that I want to be good at.
Well, as a writer, and from one to another, and journalist to another, Give me the headline for your life. What's the headline? Short answer.
For my life, I'll have to think about that one for just a second. That's a good question though. The shorter the writing, the harder it is. Let's see. One headline. Man loves to tell stories, still figuring out how to do it.
Excellent. I love it. And I know this question is tough.
Yeah.
We've been testing it out here in season 3, and it's not meant to be to stump our guests. That's not what I'm trying to do. We're trying to have a great conversation and just think about things in a more interesting way. And our audience loves the pepper questions we do and the shorter answers. And we keep the podcast really going and flowing. So it's kind of fun to go out there. So I'll ask you something easier. What's your kryptonite?
My kryptonite it depends on which field it's in, because I work in several fields that are there's a lot of overlap. For writing, it's change in routine. For the social media world, I mean, it can just be the sheer amounts of negativity that are floating around on social media. It can be a bit, especially the more out in the public eye you are, like not really myself so much, but, as a company, there can be like huge influxes of negativity at times. And how you kind of like deal with that is, it can be difficult.
No, I hear you. I've been attacked online as well. Everybody calls them trolls for a reason, right? No one really likes trolls.
Yeah.
Been attacked for wanting to help people. And they're saying, are you suggesting I need the help? All right. Along that whole theme of the things that are challenging, look back. I'm giving you an undo button. You get to hit it once and you get to change one thing, Luke. What do you change?
I would have changed the amount of reps that I put in earlier on in my career. Just like, because I'm not really good at anything that I start out with at the beginning. I've gotten good at a bunch of things just because I've put in a sheer volume of repetition. I mean, so it's I kind of have eventually I found my stride with writing. Don't be afraid to put in the reps earlier on.
Got it. Now, as a social media leader for one of the fastest growing companies, what do you want to tell people about social media? What should they be doing, not doing? What do you think? What have you learned the hard way, Luke? This is the Grit Files.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Social media is an unknown frontier in marketing right now. It's like broadcast television in their very early days. It's, people are making a lot of money off of it, but they don't know why. But one of the reasons why is I like social media, and what people should know about it, because you can get hyper focused on the negativity, is that it can be organic and it can be really fun and it can be really interesting and pioneering and different. And what people are figuring out now will be taught in colleges, 30, 40 years from now.
That's fun to be part of that legacy. Now, you've been giving all kinds of information in bits. So, Luke, how can our audience help you, or do you have something else you want to share?
No, just check out my book, and drink some coffee while you're reading it. My book, The First Marauder, you can get it pretty much anywhere where you can find books online. So, check it out.
Perfect. So we'll be sure to include links in that within the podcast write-ups. And now, last question. If we looked into your closet, Luke, and there was a pair of shoes or boots or something there that represented your personality, it personified you, describe that pair of shoes or boots or whatever it is and why that's your personality.
Probably my Chuck T's. I don't know. I kind of have I've always kind of had like a teenager mindset of myself, as far as like always kind of being new to things. I'm always new to the world, and I'm always new to things that probably make me look a bit younger than I am. I'm 32. I probably dress like I'm a college kid, most of the time.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it. We try to get there. I think it's a fun question, because a lot of folks that shoes have big shoe collections. So with that, wanted to say thank you again to Luke Ryan, author of The First Marauder. So maybe later on we'll see The Last Marauder. And also an Army veteran, again, thank you for his service and just giving all kinds of great stuff with respect to social media and working for an uprising brand. So thank you for that, Luke. Really appreciate your time, and best of luck with the sales of your new book.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. This is awesome.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?